world where the fish are friendly.
We can party like it's your birthday.
And even the biggest sharks have a sensitive side.
I'm a vegetarian.
You're a good person.
From the creators of Shrek,
Daddy.
Will Smith, Jack Black, Renee Zellweger.
Somebody needs to get me out of the bubble.
Shark Tale. This film not yet rated. He's a shark.
So Shark Tale was kind of a big deal back then because it was the first computer animated movie from DreamWorks after the Shrek movies. DreamWorks had not... They were establishing themselves as a competitor to Disney, but their really big successes were the Shrek movies at that point, even though stuff like Chicken Run was a success, but Spirit Stallion and Cimarron and Sinbad were both box office bombs, even though they were not bad movies in general, but after Shrek 2, they were moving straight into computer animated movies. So this was kind of a big gamble at the time, especially opening a movie in October, which back then was seen as a dead zone for family films in general, because obviously the kids are back in school. But the story here is that you have an underachieving fish named Oscar, played by Will Smith, who falsely claims to have killed the son of a shark mob boss, played by Robert De Niro, in an attempt to advance his community standing. Oscar teams up with the mobster's young son, played by Jack Black, to keep up the facade. And on paper, the movie doesn't look bad, but once you see the movie and see how badly animated it is, it takes it to a whole nother level. But you're probably wondering why I have such a personal hatred to this movie, because I really do not like this movie. This is very high up there with one of the worst movies I've ever seen. I'll get to that in just a second, because there's a lot to delve into with that front, but this is a movie that has a notable history to me. This is a movie that, when I saw it in theaters, I've talked about the story before. This is a movie that I actually broke my pinky finger watching the movie in a theater, and I've done a longer video talking about this as part of the Reviewing Network Live. If you want to go ahead and take a look at that, I'll leave the video for it up in the corner. But a short version, I saw the movie in theaters. I was going up to go to the bathroom, and then all of a sudden, my finger, I guess, I got caught in the railing, like in the thing that's holding the railing from the wall to where the railing is at. So I'm walking, and then all of a sudden I trip, and then all of a sudden I didn't realize it at the beginning, but my pinky finger started to swell up, and it took me a while to realize that my finger was broken. This is like halfway through the movie when this happened. So I went to the rest of the movie thinking it wasn't a big deal. Left the movie theater, and then I realized that my mother realized, actually, because she was the one that had to come get me at that point, that my finger was broken. And luckily there was a quick little Med Express right across the street from the movie theater. They were able to take care of it pretty quickly, and they gave me a splint. So I spent the next couple of weeks with the splint on my pinky finger, waiting it to get better. And I've been lucky enough to have never gone to the emergency room for any big serious injuries, even though before this, 4 years prior, I did get a fishing hook caught in the back of my foot, but that's also in that longer video I was talking about. But yeah, so that's kind of why this movie has kind of a lasting memory to me, because this is a movie I literally broke my pinky finger on, and didn't realize it until I got out of the theater. And luckily, as you can see, no problems whatsoever after 20 years. So yeah, it was a really, really odd situation that happened on that front, but yeah, so that's kind of why I've had a bad experience with this movie in particular, but not just because of what happened with my finger, but the movie itself is pretty bad. I mean, it's a lousy film. The animation overall is really terrible, considering this came from the same people that had just done the Shrek movies. For the animation to be as bad as it is here, it's awe-inspiring how bad the animation is. Not only that, the comedy isn't funny. The story is very generic on a number of different elements. It's just not a good movie whatsoever. It's a lousy film. It was criticized for using Italian-American stereotypes, which, yeah, they're all throughout the movie. The characters aren't memorable. The characters are all detestable. Even the characters you're supposed to like. Like, you're supposed to like Will Smith. You're supposed to like his girlfriend because she's supposed to be the voice of reason. But even she is not that good of a character. Angelina Jolie's character is completely wasted. I mean, she's nothing there but imagine Jessica Rabbit, except she didn't have any character or charisma to her whatsoever. That's this character in here. Like, she's straight up working for the bad guys because Oscar rubbed her the wrong way, I guess. That's literally all the reason why she's bothering to even being involved in this movie. But hey, luckily Jack Black and Angelina Jolie, who are both in this movie, would star in a much better DreamWorks movie about 4 years from now called Kung Fu Panda, which we'll get to that one eventually. But, yeah, the movie is bad. The pop culture references are really bad. Like, they aren't even trying. The movie literally begins with Katie Curran. You know, Katie Curran, get it? And then they do a whole thing where it's just like, Russell Crowfish, Jessica Shrimpson. Like, it's about as bad of a CG animated movie as you can get. I mean, it's the first real bad CG animated movie. Nothing about it works. It's not funny. It's not clever. The animation is terrible. The story is a mess. Not a good movie. Just not a good movie. And nothing of value to it whatsoever. It is high up there in my worst movies of all time list. Not just because of what happened with me in the theater, but just because the movie itself was just so terrible. I mean, it has not held up well in the 20 years since it's been released, unfortunately. So, yeah, I would say skip this one. But good news is that DreamWorks would rebound quickly with their next movie, Madagascar, but we will wait until the summer to get to that one. But until then, we move on to our next movie, a much better movie that has held up very well after 20 years. John Travolta and Joaquin Phoenix in the firefighter drama, Ladder 49.
People are always asking me, how is it that firefighters run into a burning building when everyone else is running out? Courage is the answer.
Probationary firefighter Jack Morrison reporting, sir.
How you feeling, kid?
We have a thing here. A priest comes around twice a year. We all go to confession. And this time you need it.
Bless me, Father, for I've sinned.
You sure thoughts?
Well, here's quite a bit.
You think it's funny to be with those women?
These are the men of Ladder 49.
This station is the most disciplined firehouse in the city.
Nice.
Everyday heroes.
I'm proud of you, baby.
Devoted to their families.
You ever consider babysitting full time?
What do you think I'd do at the firehouse?
And dedicated to saving the lives of strangers.
Grab her leg! Come on. I got something. Good job. Do you still love the job like you used to? You've been through some bad fires. Seen a lot of buddies hurt.
Hey, just stay calm, okay?
Saying I should get out of the firehouse? I'm saying that you should ask yourself that question.
I don't want you getting hurt.
You guys are going.
But when you risk your life for a living,
I'm on location, assuming command. We got a 20-story building. Could be explosions anywhere, anytime.
everything can change in a flash.
Evacuate now! I'm not leaving till you leave! One of our guys went missing. Jack Morrison, Ladder 49.
Get in there and find them.
Come on, let's go!
Cap, it's too late to save me. Get everybody out.
Hold tight, we're coming in after you.
Trouble in bed, Ruffler.
Jack, you keep going, just keep going. Get the door!
Ladder 49.
This is a movie that has held up surprisingly well in the 20 years since it's been released. And coincidentally, it came out around the same time as that great Dennis Leary show, Rescue Me on FX, which was on for a number of years. It was actually a really good show that I don't think really gets as much of a good attention I think it deserves. I mean, it was a hit show when it came out, but it's really kind of gone by the wayside in the years since it's been off the air. But that show's still great after all these years. This is a really good movie that has held up very well after all these years. You have Joaquin Phoenix as a Baltimore firefighter who's trapped inside of a warehouse fire and his recollection of the events that got him to this point. John Travolta is the person who plays his superior in the movie. You also have a cast that includes Morris Chestnut, Robert Patrick, Balthazar Getty, Billy Burke, Jacinda Barrett, Jay Hernandez. Really good cast in general here, and the movie really is a good action, a good drama in general. I mean, it reminds me a lot of Backdraft, which came out about over 10 years prior to this. But Backdraft, Ladder 49 have a lot of very different, very similar aspects to them, except that one's more star-studded, has more of a longevity to it, like in terms of its runtime and all that. This one runs at an evenly paced film. It's just a little bit over little bit under 2 hours long, and it definitely delivers with both Joaquin Phoenix and John Travolta giving these really solid performances. The fire scenes in here are very cool to watch. You can tell that they use a lot of practical effects in this movie, and it's a very good, engaging film in general, where you're watching this guy who was just trying to survive in this situation here, even though he really doesn't want to. There's a part in there where he really sees that he's suffering through a lot of traumatic experiences from a number of different things that have happened over the course of his life. And it's an interesting character study in general, and really shows what Joaquin Phoenix would eventually do with his career going forward, because he would do Walk the Line, of course, and then he won the Oscar for Joker 15 years later. It's a really good movie that I don't think gets the proper respect it deserves. It's a really good film, really cool fire sequences all around, and two really solid performances with John Travolta and Joaquin Phoenix working very well together. It's one that doesn't get enough attention. I think it's a very good film that definitely deserves a lot more attention. Definitely seek it out. Ladder 49 is definitely a film that I do recommend checking out. So let's go ahead and move on to the next movie, and that is T.D. Jakes' Women Thou Art Lucid.
They hit you so hard that you can't. You know, I wish I had a witness. Does anybody know what it's like to go through something and you can't get over it? I give her far too much credit.
No. People underestimate.
Just when T.D. Jakes thought he was going to take over the world with his movies, 6 months later, Tyler Perry began his reign, and somewhere T.D. Jakes is kicking himself in the foot for not putting out more of his movies out there like Tyler Perry does. But of course, Tyler Perry had the more successful films and is still continuing to have success nowadays. But then again, T.D. Jakes had a couple movies that have done pretty well for the big screen. I really like Jumpin' the Broom, which came out about 10 years after this. But would you also believe that this is from the same director that did stuff like Cooley High, Car Wash, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, The Last Dragon, Crush Groove, Disorderlies? Same director, completely different movie than any of those other movies we've mentioned here. But this is based off the self-help novel by T.D. Jakes, and it follows the story of a young woman played by Kimberly Elise, who must come to terms with a long history of sexual abuse, drug addiction, and poverty. It has been reported that the story was loosely based on the screenwriter's past relationship with a college girlfriend, and there was actually, speaking of Tyler Perry, there was a gospel stage play written, directed, and produced by Tyler Perry that actually preceded the film. And it's really all I know about the movie in general. Also, I know that Loretta Devine is in here. I usually like seeing her in anything. Clifton Powell, Michael Boatman from Arliss and Spin City. That's pretty much about it, because honestly, I have not seen this movie. I like the people involved in it, so there's a possibility that this could actually be something worth watching. But yeah, I've never seen the movie before, which is kind of a rarity nowadays, because it seems like I've seen most of the movies that we talk about on here, and then we get to something like this where I know it existed, I just never really had the interest of watching it in general. So I can't really say anything about the movie. It's gotten mixed reviews in general, nothing that really says I gotta see the movie for this reason or not. But it did lead to a sequel later on down the road, so I guess there is that. But besides that, though, there's really not much more I can really add to this, because, like I said, I haven't seen it, so I can't really say if it's good or not. But did well enough to get a sequel, so there's at least that. But with that said, let us move on to the last movie, a movie I have seen, and that is David O. Russell's I Heart Huckabees.
Called I Heart Huckabees, funny, touching, and a thinking man's movie.
Wait, what does that even mean?
With witty writing and stylistic verbs.
Jesus has never mattered us if we live with him in our hearts.
I hate to break it to you, but he is. He most definitely is.
It's a one-of-a-kind original with a cast of the highest order. Dustin Hoffman, Isabelle Huppert, Jude Law, Jason Schwartzman, Lily Tomlin, Mark Wahlberg, Naomi Watts. I Heart Huckabees, rated R. Starts Friday, October 1st in select theaters.
Ah, yes, the happy-go-lucky movie that has absolutely no controversies behind it whatsoever.
Fuck you, motherfucker! Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you!
Absolutely no controversies whatsoever.
I'm just trying to fucking help you, understand me? I'm being a fucking collaborator. I'm just trying to help you figure out your fucking thing. Hey, bitch, I'm not here to be fucking yelled at. I worked on this fucking thing for 3 fucking years. I'm having some fucking cunt yell at me. Run the fucking crew while I'm trying to fucking help you, bitch. Figure it out yourself. Yeah, fuck yourself. Why don't you fuck your whole movie? Because that's what you're doing.
No controversies whatsoever. I think you all know the story behind this movie, but of course, if you don't know what I'm talking about, what those clips were about, in 2007, which is trying to make this one of the first viral videos to really break out, honestly, there was 2 videos leaked onto YouTube portraying on-set arguments between David O. Russell and Lily Tomlin, and when she was asked about the videos, Lily Tomlin basically said, "I love David. There was a lot of pressures of making the movie. Even the way it came out, you could see it was a very free associative creative movie, crazy movie, with David under a tremendous amount of pressure, and he's a very freeform kind of guy anyway." Which makes sense because around the time he was hitting a writer's block. He couldn't figure out how to make the film work. He was also called for jury duty around the time the movie came out, after which he had to stop writing the film. And you could pretty much tell that that was kind of the problems from the get-go. But then again, David O. Russell has had that kind of bad history with a lot of his movies. Three Kings, he got into arguments with George Clooney, supposedly. And there was that stretch after this movie came out when he was making movies like The Fighter and Silver Linings Playbook and American Hustle, which were all critically and commercially successful movies that you thought that period of time was over, but then you find out that David O. Russell kind of has gone back to that thing where, bottom line, David O. Russell seems like kind of a douchebag in person in real life, but I've never worked on one of his movies before, so I can't really know for certain, but yeah, this movie certainly is a movie that has a lot of problems to it. It's described as a existential comedy where you follow a pair of detectives, played by Lily Tomlin and Dustin Hoffman. They're hired to investigate the meaning of life of their clients, Jude Law, Jason Schwartzman, Mark Wahlberg, Naomi Watts. As the different investigations cross paths, their rival and nemesis, Isabella Huppert, tries to drag their clients into her own views on the meaning of their lives. And it's a movie that feels very pretentious. Yeah, they've got all these big names in here. Dustin Hoffman, Isabella Huppert, Jude Law, which I think we're now at either 2 or 3 films with him in 2004. He made a lot of movies in 2004. Jason Schwartzman, Lily Tomlin, like I said, Mark Wahlberg, Naomi Watts. Jonah Hill has one of his first feature appearances in this in a minor role. You also got Tippi Hedren, Talia Shire, Shania Twain, Gene Smart, Bob Gunton, Richard Jenkins, Darlene Hunt. So a lot of names in the movie. A lot of good ideas in general, just not the right execution and all. It's a movie that feels like, you could definitely feel like David O. Russell was very unfocused while making this movie in general. It felt like a film that, like I mentioned before, all the problems he was having there, and it really let out on that set with Lily Tomlin, and you could just see the stress and all that, and it's no wonder why he took a break after this. I mean, he didn't make another movie until The Fighter, and then, he's all of a sudden went back on track and made made some 3 really good movies around that point with that movie, Silver Linings Playbook, and not American Hustle, because I really don't like that movie all that much. But Joy, I thought, was a good movie though. But yeah, you get the idea here. David O. Russell has been a very roller coaster of a career. I Heart Huckabees feels like the movie that kind of was the straw that broke the camel's back, just like kind of how Amsterdam's kind of like the film that the straw that broke the second camel's back for him, because that movie was a huge flop. It was one of the worst movies of 2022, and it's kind of very similar to I Heart Huckabees in a way. It's got all these people involved, a very unfocused storyline here. It has no idea what it really wants to be like, and what the purpose of existence is, and that's what it feels like with this movie here. You can't really tell why he made this movie. What's the point? Like, what's the end result of this whole thing? And you never figure it out in this movie, and despite all the good talent involved here, it's just not enough to save the movie in the long run. It's a really, really disappointing film from a director that was really starting to come into his own, and then he had this right here where he was just in a situation where, like, all these different things were going on, and it really affected the final product when it was all said and done. Just not a good movie. Just not a very good film, but those moments but those bloopers it's not good if those outtakes there are much more memorable than the movie itself.
You're fucking grown up. Act like a grown up. You're not a baby. You're a fucking grown up. I'm here to fucking help you. That's all I was doing. Trying to help you figure out everything. Where's the up? You want yelling? Do I not fucking yell at you before?
Where winning is everything.
Here's the state. Let's bring them hell.
A team with no chance
Where you going? You want me to go in close? You don't want a helmet? My goodness gracious.
will make hope come alive on Friday night.
This is on. Let's go right now.
From the producer of 8 Mile comes one of the greatest sports stories of all time. Friday Night Lights.
I don't want this to never end, Mike. Never. Never.
This film is not yet ready. It starts October 8th.
So the film takes place in Odessa, a small town in Texas, which is racially divided and economically dying. But there is one night that gives the town something to live for, Friday nights, and that's when the Permian Panthers have a big winning tradition in Texas high school football, led by quarterback Mike Winchell and superstar tailback James Booby Miles, who's played by Derek Luke. But all is not well. As Booby suffers a career-ending injury in the first game of the season, hope is lost among citizens of Odessa and for the team, but Coach Kerry Gaines, played by Billy Bob Thornton, believes that perfection is being able to look your friends in the eye and know you did everything you could to not let them down. It's somehow able to help the team rise up from the ashes, make a huge season comeback, and now they're on the way to state. The Panthers must go out and be perfect because they may never matter that much for the rest of their lives. And this is, of course, based off the book by H.G. Buzz Bessinger. I think it's... Yeah, H.G. Bessinger, who wrote the book of the same name, Friday Night Lights, A Town, a Team, and a Dream. And it takes place in the 1980s. And yeah, it's a really good movie, and it works because of the great cast they have involved in here. You know, Billy Bob Thornton is great as Coach Gaines. Derek Luke is great in here playing Booby Miles. Great cast also includes Jay Hernandez, Lucas Black, Garrett Hedlund. Tim McGraw has a really good performance in this movie. Lee Thomas Young from the famous Jet Jackson. Connie Britton, who would later go on to play Kyle Chandler's wife in the television series, which I'll get to in just a second. But also Amber Heard is in here. There's just a lot of great talent involved in here. It's a really good, uplifting storyline that just works because it feels like small town America done right. I mean, it's a movie that feels very authentic. It feels like it doesn't feel like a traditional sports movie where it just kind of goes into very familiar territory. It does, but it never really ruins the ebb and flow of the movie, and it really does it much better than I think most movies of this type actually do. And I think it helps that you have a great director in Peter Berg, who also did The Rundown before this, and he's shown that he's got a knack for directing movies of quality like this. I mean, this is a film that really works on a number of different levels. It's a film that's very impressively put together. It features a fantastic cast led by Bob Thornton, and it's just a great story in general that led to a really great television series in the long run. Of course, this led to the critically acclaimed Friday Night Lights, which has Kyle Chandler in the title role, and I don't think he's not playing the same character from. Well, he's a different he's a different character, but it's funny because Connie Britton plays his wife in that show as well, just like she does in the movie to Billy Bob Thornton's character. So that's it's a very interesting contrast between the movie and the television show, where you have two very different actors playing very different roles, but the same actress is playing pretty much the same role in both the movie and the TV show. Obviously, the TV show better adapts the character more in this case, but that show features a terrific cast of young talent that would go on to become famous. Amy T. Garden, Scott Porter, Mika Kelly, of course Michael B. Jordan, Zach Gilford, Jesse Plemons, Taylor Kitsch, Adriana Palicki. Just a phenomenal show. Just one show that has to be seen as must-watch television. It's a movie where, I mean, it really is a TV series that is pretty much the equivalent to something like MASH, where you have a great movie, but you have a great TV series that could be considered one of the best television shows of recent memories. It's that good of a show. It's just a very good show in general. I definitely recommend the show, especially, even if you've never seen the movie, which you should see the movie, because it is one of the best sports movies I've seen in a long time. I think it works great with the storyline, works great with the characters, just a really, really good sports movie. I can't recommend it enough. Friday Night Lights, I can't recommend it enough. Just easily check it out. Check out the movie, check out the show, check out everything. It's definitely worth the watch. Not worth the watch is our next movie, which is Jimmy Fallon in one of his two main lead outings after leading Saturday Night Live. He teams up with Queen Latifah in the action comedy Taxi.
Officer Washburn is having a bad day. Officer Washburn.
That's funny.
Is having a bad month.
3 cars you totaled. That is 11 points on your license.
Don't take my license, please.
It's gone.
Attention all units. Proceed to Manhattan Savings and Loan. We have a 1030 armed robbery in progress. Suspects armed and dangerous.
Freeze! Police officer! I'm gonna need a car!
Luckily for Officer Washburn, he lives in New York City.
36 and Broadway. Step on it. You jumped in the right cab today. I don't usually stop for white guys. My way of balancing the universe. Buckle up for safety, mother.
You took a cab to a bank robbery?
Don't worry about speed limits, realize nothing. I'm still running this meter. Keep driving. Keep driving. Who is gonna pay that? This is a badge, okay? That means you're not allowed to scream at me. No. Let me just stay. Ah! Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh. Yeah. Damn.
Keep screaming like a little girl.
You okay?
Yeah.
Damn.
I think some people probably feel the same way about Jimmy Fallon right now. They feel like Queen Latifah. Are you okay? Yeah. Damn. But I'm not that type. I'm not that person. I mean, I don't like what he's done with the Tonight Show in the last couple of years. But Jimmy Fallon started off pretty good on there, and then just as the show has gone on, it's gone completely down the rails. But yeah. Would you also believe that this is a movie that's based on a French film by Luc Besson? Would have never gotten that from this movie. This is of course Taxi, and no, it's also not based off the television show, the classic 70s TV show with Tony Danza and Danny DeVito, which I thought that this was that when I first saw the trailers for this, but no, anything but that. But you have Jimmy Fallon starring as an incompetent New York City police officer who's banned from driving and comes to rely on a talented taxi driver to help him solve a series of bank robberies played by Queen Latifah. They team up to fight down a group of Brazilian bank robbers, all supermodels, which I think is kind of a fun concept there. But they find out how the gang transports the stolen money. The detective is then fired, but they go on to confront the gang, and of course, chaos and hilarity ensues. Or at least that's what you think for this movie. It's your typical buddy cop movie, and like I said, there are some fun ideas. Like I like the ideas that the bad guys are actually these gorgeous Brazilian models led by Gisele Bündchen, which I think is very funny because okay, maybe she is Brazilian. I did not think that. I thought she was Italian for some reason, but no, she's a Brazilian model, so I guess that makes sense. But that's kind of funny. Unfortunately, the rest of the movie is not, and it's a shame because this is also written by Robert Ben-Garant and Thomas Lennon, the guys from Reno 911. So how do you not make this work when you've got the guys behind Reno 911, Tim Story, who did a pretty good movie in Barbershop before this? I mean, Queen Latifah can be very funny in movies like this, but it just kind of falls into the same trappings as most of these buddy cop movies. You know exactly what's going to happen. You know there's going to be some kind of double cross at some point. The villains aren't that impressive to look at, except for the fact that they've got these gorgeous bodies and they're models. I mean, it's basically the one joke they have to work with here. And Jimmy Fallon, I don't want to say he's the worst thing about the movie. It's just the movie is not really giving him a whole lot to do. And we'll see with his next movie that he does 6 months later, Fever Pitch. Fallon had a potential to be a really good actor. He's great in that movie, Fever Pitch. But here, he's just playing the Billy Crystal role. You know, he's playing the straight guy role. Like, he's playing that guy that's teamed up with this, this person who plays by their own rules. I mean, it's not really a cop in this situation. It's a taxi driver. But, once in that trailer, like, there's fun elements in there too, like the scene where he's like, police officer, I'm gonna need your car, and he causes that big car crash. That's funny. Where I think the real red flags start to take shape is when he goes into the taxi, and the taxi all of a sudden turns into something that Exhibit would have done to Queen Latifah's car in Pimp My Ride. I mean, it's like, it gets to that ridiculous levels, and it's just like, at that point, there's no turning back, because the movie really struggles to get anywhere, and it doesn't work because you can't buy into the chemistry between Latifah and Fallon. The bad guys aren't that interesting in general, despite that one thing that's keeping it from staying somewhat of a clever idea. But even that idea gets stale pretty quickly early on, and it's just like, there really is nothing there, man. I've never seen the Luc Besson movies that these are based off of, but I'm pretty sure they're much more clever and much more smarter than what this movie was. I feel like this was just a movie that takes place with a taxi, and they said, let's buy the rights to the Luc Besson film so we can use that name for our movie. I mean, it's probably an in-name title only remake. I mean, like I said, I haven't seen the remake to this, so I can't really say for certain. But I'm pretty sure the Luc Besson movies are probably much better than this. This just didn't work very well. I mean, yeah, like I said, it's one of the things that kind of caused Fallon's career as a film star to really go careening off the hill pretty quickly. But he would at least have one good movie, as we'll get to later on in 2005 with Fever Pitch. But this is not a good start for him personally. So yeah, that's Taxi. So let's go ahead and move on to the last movie we have here, Hilary Duff in Raise Your Voice.
I really want to get into this music summer program.
See why Hilary Duff is irresistible. In her best film yet.
This place is the scariest, hardest, best thing that has ever happened to me.
Hilary Duff.
And it was so much fun.
Raise Your Voice. Rated PG. Starts Friday.
Hilary Duff's best film, huh? I don't know, kind of liked her in Cheaper by the Dozen. Cheaper by the Dozen is a better movie. Cinderella Story wasn't a great movie, but at least it was trying. Agent Cody Banks was pretty fun. Hell, I'll even take the Lizzie McGuire movie at this point, but best movie from her yet? I don't see it. I mean, this is nothing but a watered-down version of Fame, and not even a good version of Fame, to be quite honest with you. The film stars Hilary Duff in a movie where, after a tragic family event, she follows her dreams and attends a performing arts school to help build her career. Along with some new friends, she does her best to push herself to get what she wants to and where she wants to go, and continue the memory of a family member. So, it's essentially the same movie that we saw with Confessions of a Teenage Drama Queen, except mixed in with a little bit of Fame, except I'd rather watch Confessions of a Teenage Drama Queen, and I will certainly take Fame more than this piece of garbage right here. I mean, this is a terrible movie with too many good, talented people involved in here. You got Hilary Duff, who we've seen can be a really good actress in movies. Rita Wilson, I mean, she's been good in some stuff, too, a lot of stuff too. David Keith, Jason Ritter, of course, he's a Dipper on Gravity Falls, and I've seen him in much better things than this. Rebecca De Mornay, John Corbett, James Avery, Kat Dennings. I mean, a lot of good talent in this movie, and they're really not given a whole lot to do. This feels like a movie that's a Disney Channel movie blown up for the big screen. And wouldn't you know it, the director of this movie has directed a ton of Disney Channel original movies, along with movies that are absolutely horrible. This is Sean McNamara, the guy that gave us such wonderful movies as Casper, A Spirited Beginning, Three Ninjas, High Noon at Mega Mountain, Punks, the Even Stevens movie, The Cutting Edge, Going for the Gold, and his magnum opus, Bratz. That should tell you all you need to know about how bad this director is. This is, what do I gotta say, man? This is not a good movie by any means necessary. This is just a lazy remake of lazy modern day remake of Fame, which somehow is even worse than the actual modern day remake of Fame that they did later on in the decade, which was still pretty bad. But you know what? I'd rather watch that than watch this garbage again. Just no. This is not her best film. Hilary Duff's been in a lot better movies than this. Just avoid this one like the plague, plain and simple.
Danger. Weapons of mass destruction are being offered to terrorists all over the world. Global chaos is about to consume every country on Earth. And there is only one hope for humanity.
And obviously, it's definitely not South Park, and that may be both seen as kind of a pro and a con to this movie in particular. But as you can tell, the film features the titular international counterterrorism force who recruits a Broadway actor to assist in saving the world from Kim Jong-un as a coalition of Islamic terrorists and liberal Hollywood actors. And as you can tell, the movie uses a lot of puppetry and miniature effects similar to the style that they used in the TV series Thunderbirds, making this a much better Thunderbirds movie that came out in 2004 than the actual Thunderbirds movie that came out in 2004. Even though Trey Parker and Matt Stone have proven that they were fans of the show in particular. And there was a lot of problems with the movie in general from the production aspects. There was a lot of problems with the puppets, scheduling extremes and finishing it in time for its release while also having to do the South Park TV show at the time. Which, if you've ever seen the South Park DVD commentaries for Season 8 when this was coming out, they even say in those episodes, like, at the commentaries there, they were really had their crunch time, like, working on the movie, working on the TV show. It's why, honestly, you don't really see a whole lot of movies coming from Trey Parker and Matt Stone anymore, even though we are getting a new movie from them coming out next summer, which I'm definitely looking forward to see what they do there. But this was also a film that came into conflict with the MPAA because it was always going after an NC-17 rating because of one explicit sex scene involving puppets. That is literally true. That's one of the reasons why this film took so long to actually get to theaters, because of those problems. And it's a one little scene too. Like, it's not like a scene that it's not like a big sex scene, but it's just like it's there, and really when you watch it, it's just like, that's really why this thing had to get an NC-17, got close to an NC-17 rating, honestly. But as far as the movie itself goes, I mean, it is a movie that knows exactly what it is. I don't think it's anywhere near as good as something like South Park, Bigger, Longer, and Uncut. But you know what? It is very funny, and it works very well to its advantages. I mean, there's a lot of great memorable lines and moments in this movie. You know, all these characters are so over the top and playing the standard Michael Bay-ish type characters. Like this is literally a Michael Bay movie done by puppets, and it's much more compelling than something like Armageddon or Pearl Harbor is. And like it's much funnier, it's much cleverer. Like it's a movie that is well done in a lot of aspects. Granted, there are times when the movie does there are definitely a lot of low points in the movie, like a lot of dull moments, if you will. There's a lot of jokes in there that don't usually work very often. Some of the jokes are kind of overstay their welcome a little bit, but they're very few and far between. It's not a perfect movie by any means, but it's definitely a movie that's not one I would say is on the same level as something like the South Park movie was, which I think the South Park movie has gotten a lot better over time. This movie, I feel like, was made in the perfect time, but as the years have gone on, there's definitely a lot of elements that haven't really held up as much as they did back in the day. And the celebrity parodies there are kind of random at some points. Like, they mentioned some of them in the trailer there, but then there are some in this movie that don't really make a whole lot of sense. Like, why is Danny Glover in the movie for no particular reason? You know, why is who's another one? There was I'm trying to remember who. Like some names in there make sense, like Susan Sarandon, George Clooney, Michael Moore, Alec Baldwin, Sean Penn. Sean Penn literally got so pissed off at them that they literally sent an angry letter to them to tour Iraq with them, and they promoted that used that as a promotional piece for the movie. Which, that's what I like about Trey Parker and Matt Stone. Like, they have the balls to do that type of stuff and not look at this and go like, what is okay, maybe we should step back a little bit. No, power through. Like, that's what made South Park as great of a show as it was throughout the course of its run. And apparently Meryl Streep and Ben Affleck were involved in it. Meryl Streep you can kind of get, but Ben Affleck, then there's some names in here that don't really add into anything in particular ways, like Hans Blick. Like, he's only there to be kind of like he's only there to be killed in the violent way, but like there's a lot of cameos in here that don't really make a whole lot of sense in general, and they just feel like they're there just for the sake of being there. But again, they're not hurting the movie overall, but they feel kind of more pointless in this particular case than they do in something like, you know, in something like a South Park movie. But the film overall is funny. It's just not as funny as something like the South Park movie, which, like I said, has gotten better with age over the course of the 25 years it's been released. This is a good movie. not a great movie. It still has a lot of memorable moments to it, like the song, you know, America, fuck yeah, and some great lines throughout the course of the movie. I mean, one of my favorite quick lines in the movie is when one of the guys is like, you know, the main character of the movie, who's basically Trey Parker doing Randy from South Park, Gary Johnson, like he's dressing up as a terrorist, and he's in the back of his car with the other two terrorists, and the girlfriend in the movie, Kristen Miller's character, Princess from That's My Bush, is able to save him, and then one of the other guys from behind him, is one of the guys working for Team America, gets in front of the car, and he goes like, "Surprise, cuckfags!" Like that's my favorite line in the movie, because it's just out of the blue. It's a little 1 second line, and every time I hear it, I just can't help but laugh out loud at it. I mean, it's just one of the funniest random lines you'll have in a movie like this. And yeah, the movie definitely has a lot of that. Is it a perfect movie? No, it's not a perfect movie, but it's definitely one of the lesser projects these guys have done. That being said, I do still really like the movie a lot. I think it's very funny. I think it does get ridiculous when it needs to. There's a great scene where at the end they have to fight these two panthers from Kim Jong-un and Kim Jong II, and it's actually two black kitty cats. Like, it's literally two black kittens, and it's just like stuff like that is really, really funny stuff, and it's just stuff like that really does make the movie worth it in the end. I think it's a very fun film. Definitely a very flawed film, but still a fun film nonetheless. I do recommend it. I just don't think it will have the same lasting impact that it did when the movie came out 20 years ago, honestly. But then again, I could be wrong on that front. But let's go ahead and move on to the second movie we have here this week, and that is Richard Gere, Jennifer Lopez, and Susan Sarandon in a role that's actually where she's playing a leading actress in it. Shall We Dance?
For longer than he can remember, John Clark has led a dull existence. The mind-numbing commute. The family he never sees.
Better reflect tonight? Looks that way.
But one night, he looks up, and his whole life changes.
Have you ever danced before?
No, but I'm a fast learner. Excuse me, when we go, I'm sorry, when we go forward.
Now, he's entering a world he never imagined. A place filled with grand passions.
You have to hold her, like you're gonna have your way with her, right here on the dance floor.
You all right?
Yeah, good. Bitter rivalries. Great friends.
Shall we dance, Mr. Clark?
And strange couples.
The judges are looking at your hips, not your hair, so lose it!
From the company that brought you Chicago.
You could have told me about it.
I was ashamed.
Of dancing?
Richard Gere. Jennifer Lopez. Susan Sarandon. Stanley Tucci. In a story about the dreams we follow.
What made you want to dance?
It made me happy.
And the lives we change along the way.
Beverly, dance with me?
I don't know how.
You've been dancing with me for 19 years.
Shall We Dance?
So in this movie, you have Richard Gere, who plays a middle-aged Chicago estate lawyer who loves his family, including his wife, played by Susan Sarandon, but their combined busy schedules and getting caught in a rut after 2 decades of marriage have left their feelings fully unfilled. He takes the L train home every night, and he notices the same young, beautiful, contemplative woman staring out one of the mirrors at Miss Mitzi's dance studio, which specializes in ballroom. He's intrigued enough with her beauty and sadness to go in one evening on his way home, and he learns that she is Paulina, played by Jennifer Lopez, who's one of the instructors and a former world-class ballroom dancer. Because of her, he signs up for beginner group dancing lessons, regardless of them being taught by Miss Mitzi herself and not Paulina. And as time progresses, John gets caught up in the lives of these people at the place he's at, including 2 fellow classmates and 2 of the students' competitive amateurs who are looking for a dance partner. One of them is played by Stanley Tucci, and one person who surprises John, who just wants to be able to show his true colors to the world while hiding under a mask. But as Paulina slowly allows herself to be involved in their lives as well, despite she vowing not to fraternize with the students, John comes to the spoken realization of what he was looking for when he spotted Paulina in the window. Similarly, each of them are at the dance studio is looking for that small piece of life with the right person, Paulina included, and John may not get the happy ending that he wants, as Beverly believes he's having an affair, and how could you not when Richard Gere is going to a place where Jennifer Lopez is the dancer, which, yeah. you can see where the problems come into play here. This is actually a remake of a 1996 movie by Masayuki Suwa, and it's got a lot of good talent involved with it. Peter Kelsom, who directed Serendipity, and Audrey Wells, who's written a lot of work we've talked about on the show before, most recently Under the Tuscan Sun. This was a movie that came out that didn't get really the proper respect it deserved at the time. It was kind of a film that kind of came under the radar and kind of just came and went. And honestly, it's a movie that I think has gotten a lot better over time. And it works because it's the type of movie I like. It's a movie where a guy is stuck in a rut and he finds a new pathway in life through just golden chance and golden opportunity. It's kind of like Owen Wilson in Midnight in Paris, which is one of my favorite movies, or Bradley Cooper when he's hanging out with Jennifer Lawrence in The Silver Linings Playbook. Like, you know, his life essentially becomes different because of this one circumstance, and I think it works very well in this movie. I like the chemistry between Richard Gere and Susan Sarandon. You do believe that they were a good couple, but they have been lost out of love after so many years together. I like the chemistry he has with Jennifer Lopez. This is a great cast. It also includes, as I mentioned, Stanley Tucci, who's absolutely great in the movie. Lisa Ann Walter from Abbott Elementary is great in the movie. You have Anita Gillette, Bobby Cannavale, Omar Miller, Richard Jenkins, Nick Cannon, Maya, Ja Rule. A great cast in general all throughout the course of the movie. I mean, they do a really good job of creating a very good and effective storyline here. One that we've seen done to death so many times before, yes, but the performances, I think, do carry a lot of the load of the movie, and it is a soft, engaging storyline. It's a really good film where you can go into it and get involved with these characters and find a common ground and really find a lot you can associate with your own life with. And I think it's a very nice comfort food movie. It's a movie that really is great on its performances, great on its dance moves. I mean, it's a really good heartfelt film in general. A good comedy. Good dramatic elements all around here. A film that definitely, I feel like, deserves a lot more attention than it does. It's a really good movie, man, especially considering the year Jennifer Lopez was having when, she began the year off in the movie Jersey Girl, and her relationship with Ben Affleck came to an end shortly after that movie came out. And this is just a good movie that really shows that, hey, she's got the acting chops and she can make a movie work with her in it. And it's a really good movie. It's one that I do recommend checking out. It's a criminally underrated film. I really like it a lot. Shall we dance?
Eyes in a state of terror. The curse is born.
The whole time I was in that house, I felt something was wrong.
Once you see it, you can never forget. Once it sees you, you can never escape.
So in the movie, Sarah Michelle Gellar plays an American nurse who moves to Tokyo and encounters a supernatural spirit who is vengeful and often possesses its victims. A series of horrifying and mystifying deaths start to occur, with the spirit passing its curse onto each victim, and now Karen must find a way to break the spell before she becomes its next victim. This is based off of a Japanese horror movie, which is actually directed by the same man who made that film in particular, Takashi Shimizu. So, that's something that The Ring didn't have. Ring had Gore Verbinski doing the first movie, which I think they kind of took note of what The Grudge was doing and thought, for the sequel, let's have the original director for The Ring come in for the sequel, even though we're still a couple months away from that, and that one's not going to be anywhere near as good as the original Ring. But this, I'll say this, the movie is not perfect. It's a film that is very flawed in a number of different aspects, but I will tell you this, where the film lacks in the story department, the film excels in the scares, because, man, there's a lot of creepy moments in this movie, and there are a lot of really good, effective jump scares in this movie. Like, even for someone like me who does not like a lot of horror movies, I was jumping several times during the course of this movie. And, I mean, it really is a film that works so well with the visuals. The visuals pretty much do the storytelling for you, and, like, the creep factor is just all over the place. Like, that scene where one person, played by Katie Strickland, like, she's going back to her apartment, and then this spirit follows her back to the apartment, and when she gets taken out, that's one of those really great jump scares in particular that this movie has. There's a couple of them that really weren't as good as I think they were setting up to be. Like that thing at the end of the trailer with, the hand coming through the back of Sarah Michelle Gellar's head. Like, that one didn't really affect me all that much in particular. That one really wasn't as scary as some of the other scares in the movie, because the movie does have a legitimately good amount of good jump scares in particular. And I think that's what makes this movie more memorable, are the jump scares in here. The terrifying aspects of it are very good in general. The story is not that great overall. It's a film that is very much kind of a mediocre storyline here. You don't really learn about a lot with why this thing is particularly doing this, but and there's never really any sense that they're able to fix the problem here, because this thing's going to keep coming at you no matter what happens. And like I said, the greatest aspects about this movie are the scares in this movie, because the scares in this movie are legitimately good and terrifying most of the time. Other than that, though, I don't know. It's a movie that really works mostly because of the scares. Other than that, though, everything else is kind of mediocre in general. But I would say I'd recommend it just for the scares alone. But other than that, though, this isn't something you're going to want to watch on repeat several times when you watch it, and then afterwards. Just kind of like, yeah, it's not a great movie story-wise. From the scare perspective, that's where the movie really shines. And I think that's really the one thing you take away from this. Around Halloween, it's good for a one-time watch every Halloween. But other than that, though, you don't need to watch this more than once every year. I'm just saying. But let's get to something that is actually really, really scary. Something that's even scarier than The Grudge. How about a Christmas movie released before Halloween? Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to get to that movie. The infamous Surviving Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas! We gotta sing Christmas tree. Tom, you take the lead?
Would it make any difference to you if I didn't want to?
Not really.
Oh, Christmas tree,
Oh, Christmas tree, you stand in woodland beauty.
It's the most wonderful time.
Oh, facial ice ball!
I can't feel my toes.
Jingle belling and everyone telling you be of good cheer. It's the most wonderful time of the
I think Tony Soprano is pretty much everybody who sees this movie and sees how terrible Ben Affleck is. You want to hit him on the head too and wish that he was dead. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, this is that movie. This is the worst thing, the bottom of the barrel that Ben Affleck has ever done. Geely was one of those movies where, yeah, it was seen as one of the film that killed Ben Affleck's career, but he was at least trying in that movie to try to save it. But this is the bottom of the barrel. So he plays a wealthy Chicago ad executive who has long avoided the family traditions of Christmas, but has been dreaded being alone on the actual day. So when his tropical Christmas vacation with his girlfriend, played by Jennifer Goodwin, falls through and Missy breaks up with him in the process, a self-therapy session leads Drew to decide to relive his best childhood Christmases. With his loved ones long gone, he decides to rent a family with the Valcos, the current owners of his childhood home in suburban Chicago. Tom Valco, played by Gandolfini, wants nothing to do with Drew until an exorbitant amount of money is involved. I think it's $50,000 or something like that. They draw up a contract which expires at the end of Christmas night. What Drew doesn't or refuses to realize is that the Valcos are having their own problems with his presence exasperated. Can the Valcos endure their unexpected guests? If they can, will the money solve their problems? Meanwhile, will Drew come to realize what he wants in life and how to achieve it? And why the hell is this movie? And the biggest question of all, why the hell is this movie being released 2 weeks before Halloween? That's something I never got with this particular movie. This is apparently a movie that was in production all the way back in May of 2001. In May of 2001, Ben Affleck agreed to star in this movie when it was at Columbia Pictures. And then it shifted over to DreamWorks. Christmas movies like this don't usually take that much time to do unless it's like a high-concept movie. Like if it's the Santa Claus or Fred Claus, or, these bigger budgeted movies. But does anything in this movie look big budget to you? No. Why is Ben Affleck being involved in this movie? This movie doesn't feel like a film that Ben Affleck should even be involved in with his rapport at that point. He's an Academy Award-winning actor and writer. He's written Oscar caliber stuff here. Like this is a role that should not have gone to Ben Affleck in the beginning. This should have gone to like a more comedic actor, somebody like who's a popular actor at the time. Somebody maybe like I don't know, a Ray Romano, or maybe someone from Friends, maybe a Matt LeBlanc, maybe a Matthew Perry. Like who? Hell, a David Hyde Pierce or Kelsey Grammer. People who were popular in sitcoms at the time. Kevin James probably could have made this work better, because he was on The King of Queens. Mike O'Malley from Yesteryear, Charlie Sheen, John Cryer. I'm just naming all these better people that could be involved in this movie. Because Ben Affleck should not be in this role at all. This movie fails mostly because of him just having such a panic attack of a performance in this. Like, nothing about what this character does in this movie is sane. Nothing about what this character does makes any sense whatsoever. Yeah, you want to go back to where you spent your best times as a child, but you have to realize that you're interrupting a major family holiday, and you get behind the family because this guy randomly shows up, and the first thing that he does, by the way, which that trailer does not show you, as soon as Ben Affleck gets to the house, you know what he does first? He takes the piece of paper, because this is what his therapist, played by Stephen Root, tells him to do. Go to his childhood home, take a piece of paper, set it on fire, and say, "I forgive you." Now, from the backside, if you're looking at the point of view of James Gandolfini and Catherine O'Hara, this looks like somebody who's literally about to burn your house down. So, in the trailer, it makes it seem like that James Gandolfini's an asshole. No, James Gandolfini's doing what he should have done in the first place, and knocking the shit out of a guy who's about to burn his house down. By the way, it was $250,000, not $500,000. I'm reading it off of the synopsis here. But if those problems weren't enough, you realize that there was somebody else in that trailer that wasn't really given a whole lot of attention, except you see her in the far right in the beginning of the trailer. Yeah, Christina Applegate is in this movie, and you would have never figured it out because she doesn't show up until about 45 minutes in the movie. When I saw this movie in a theater, which, yes, me and my sister saw this in the theater on opening weekend because, why not? I mean, this is one of those rare occurrences where the whole thing makes no sense whatsoever. We had no idea that Christina Applegate was in this fucking movie until we saw the movie. That's how bad this movie is, when you have somebody who was just in one of the biggest comedy hits of the year with Anchorman, and it barely mentions her, except on the poster for the movie. Like, the poster literally has her name in there, and yet she's nowhere to be found in the trailer, maybe because she realized, oh, this is a terrible movie, and I want nothing to do with it. And quite frankly, I can't imagine why anyone would want to be involved with it. But let's get to the crux of the problems with the movie. The release date. Why are they releasing this 2 weeks before Halloween? In the history of the box office, what movie has opened a Christmas movie before Halloween and has found success with it? Never. It has never happened because studios realize, the marketing department realizes that, oh wait, if we put a Christmas movie before Halloween, it won't make money over the course of the holiday season. Not DreamWorks, because, I'm willing to bet you what DreamWorks probably thought when they bought this movie. They were going to have it be like a 2003 holiday release, and then they finally saw the movie, and it's just like, oh, fuck no, we're not putting this out there. But instead of putting it out in the dumping month of January, which would make more sense, or if you want to even go down that right, do something like Christmas in July. Slam it in the middle of the big summer blockbusters and say, hey, we put it in the middle of summer blockbusters. But, no. Somebody at DreamWorks had the bright idea to say, Christmas is starting to become, we're starting to see Christmas coming into stores in the months of September, October. Why don't we go ahead and put this movie out 2 weeks before Halloween? Because, it's a genius idea when you think about it, says the DreamWorks marketing executive. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Steven Spielberg, Jeffrey Katzenberg, David Geffen, they all looked at that guy and told him to get the fuck out of here after they did this because, not a shocker. The movie didn't do very well. It was in theaters for 2 weeks. It was literally out of theaters before Thanksgiving. So that was a mistake right from the get-go. And the film cost $45 million to make. Only brought back $11 million domestically. That's how horrible this movie was. That this movie was, and that's not even the worst part about it, because the funny thing about this movie in particular is that the fact that this movie did so poorly and was such a huge flop that, you know, around this time, I should explain something here, because back in 2004, when it comes to new releases on physical media like DVD or VHS, you would usually wait about 4 to 6 months. It depends on how successful the movie was. Like, I think Shrek 2 came out in May of 2004 and didn't get a DVD release until November. Dodgeball didn't get a release on DVD until December, and even though the movie came out in June, sometimes they'll do it a little early on. Like back in the nowadays, you can kind of figure whenever a movie comes out, I think maybe 2-3 months after it comes out, and then they put it out on Blu-ray. Not back then. Usually it was 4 to 6 months, and then the time. Sometimes like Universal. Sometimes they'll put a movie out on DVD and Blu-ray 2 months after the movie came out. We just had that recently with The Fall Guy. But I bring this up because Surviving Christmas is one of those moments in history where, yeah, DreamWorks. You might not think DreamWorks is one of the big studios in general, but you've got to. I would think it's a big studio in general. So them to release a movie with a wide release like this, they released this movie not even 2 months after the movie came out in theaters. It was on DVD on December 21st, 2004. And if you want proof of that, here's the DVD. This is the original DVD release from December 21st, 2004. And I have the proof that this is indeed the date, because if you look inside of here, that's my original Walmart receipt, and look at the date on the bottom there. December 21st, 2004. I bought this because I couldn't believe that somebody had the nerve and the audacity to put this movie out on DVD less than 2 months after the movie came out in theaters. Now, for a Christmas movie in particular, usually they wait until the next Christmas season, because they usually don't make money after they come out in theaters. Nowadays, they've kind of scrapped that altogether and just put it out after a couple months, because we had that with The Grinch recently. But in the same year, Polar Express and Christmas at the Cranks came out in theaters. They waited a full year for the DVD releases of both of those movies. Not this little abomination, not this horrible piece of garbage right here. Yeah. And yes, I spent $20 on the DVD for this, because at the time I didn't think, at least, you know what, I just had to get it for the history. But it's funny, because I bought the Blu-ray version of this when my FYE was closing down. I only spent about 77 cents. It was less than $1 for a new Blu-ray. So, but yeah, I hold on to this as a part of history, because this is one of the first times a major studio, DreamWorks Entertainment, decided the movie was so terrible and so poorly mismarketed, they decided to throw this movie into theaters 2 weeks before Halloween, and then had the balls to put this out on DVD less than 2 months later. Let's put this into perspective here. Anchorman, which came out in July of 2004, which also starred Christina Applegate, had yet to be released on DVD at this point. Anchorman, I think, came out a week later, after Christmas came out. That's how badly they screwed this whole thing up. Yeah, so if that is not enough to make you say, wow, this movie is terrible, the movie is terrible on a number of different levels. You hate Ben Affleck, you hate him for everything he does in the movie. You want to feel more for the family in this situation, but then the family ends up being scumbags too, and like, everybody in this movie is just a dick. This movie just has this uncomfortable, dark sense of feeling to it. And if it was a black comedy, I think it could. If they had already said at the beginning, yeah, it's going to be that kind of a black comedy and marketed that way, then we probably could have accepted it more. But no, that trailer was way too happy. The trailer after that was also way too happy and peppy. So yeah, they completely lied to you on that front too. This is the bottom of the barrel for Ben Affleck. This is the movie where I think he realized, after this movie came out and it flopped as badly as it did, he realized, I have to change my career. I have to figure out a way to get back in the zeitgeist again and not be this person ever again. And that's when his career started to take a rebound, because a couple years later, he would slowly but surely have that comeback, starting with that performance in Hollywoodland. And then 3 years later, he would direct his first movie, Gone Baby Gone, which is a phenomenal film. He'd follow that up with The Town a couple years later, which was a great film. And then Argo was a great film, too, won the Best Picture. So, yeah, this is the low point before we get to the comeback story that is Ben Affleck. And Yeah, but this was the bottom of the barrel. This movie right here, this film right here is the bottom of the barrel. Do you get it yet? You realize how bad this movie is? I think you get the point. So, yeah, I've already wasted 12 minutes of your time talking about this movie, which is more than I could say, which is probably more than anybody could really say about the movie in particular. But then again, if I had more time, I'd probably go into much greater detail about how terrible this movie is. But I've already wasted 12 minutes of your time here by doing this. Now we're heading to 13 minutes. So let's step away from the bad movie here, and let's get back to the good stuff again. Really good stuff. Let's go ahead and move on to our next movie, which is Alexander Payne's Sideways.
Sideways is the best time you'll have in the movies this year. And now it's been nominated for an Academy Award for Best Picture. Oops, Sideways, rated R.
So Sideways tells the story of a depressed teacher played by Paul Giamatti and his unsuccessful writer, along with his passive prime actor friend played by Thomas Hayden Church, who take a week-long road trip to Santa Barbara County wine country to celebrate Jack's upcoming wedding. And Sandra Oh and Virginia Madsen play two women they encounter during the trip, and they essentially have a relationship throughout the course of the film. This is also based off of the book of the same name by Rex Pickett, and it's one of the classic movies from both Alexander Payne and Paul Giamatti. This was the movie that really established Paul Giamatti as a star in the making, a film where, you know, he really shows off what he can do as an actor in general. And, you know, he had been in a couple of critically acclaimed movies. He had been stuff like American Splendor, even fun stuff like Big Fat Liar he was really good in. But this was a movie that really gave him a chance to really shine. Everybody here gets a really good chance to shine in here. Thomas Hayden Church is really good in the movie. Sandra Oh, who of course would later find success in the year with Grey's Anatomy, and then Virginia Madsen. Just a really good cast in general. A really engaging storyline here. One of the more mature road trip movies you'll ever see. And a film that really does take you by surprise. You really do get invested in these characters throughout the course of the movie, and you think you know where it's going to go, and it really doesn't go down that route you obviously expect it to go down, but it does much more differently than you would think a movie like this would do. And you're along with it because you really like these characters. You get so invested so quickly in what they're doing and how they're gonna move along in these situations here, and it just works really well. It's a really great film with a lot of strong performances all across the board. The visual look of the movie is impressive. Seeing wine country as a whole is very impressive to look at. I'm not even a wine person in general, but this is a movie that would make you want to start drinking wine so you could have adventures like this. I mean, it's that type of a movie that's really engaging, really compelling, and just keeps you invested in what's going to happen throughout the course of the film. And it was a massive hit. It was nominated for Best Picture, Best Director. Virginia Madsen got a Best Supporting Actress nomination. Thomas Hayden Church got a Supporting Actor. And it won Best Adapted Screenplay for Alexander Payne and Jim Taylor. It's a shame that Paul Giamatti and Sandra Oh didn't get mentioned in the categories for Best Actor or Actress, because they are really, really good in the movie and definitely deserve a lot more attention, especially Sandra Oh. I thought overall gave the better performance than Madsen. Madsen was good, but Sandra Oh really was aside from Paul Giamatti, she really was the breakout star of the film. But, yeah, not much more to say about this one. A classic movie, Sideways. So let's go ahead and move on to our last movie, and that is Christian Bale in The Machinist.
Big deal about a goddamn picture.
They say the guy in this photo doesn't exist.
That trailer is really good, by the way. I didn't get to show the end of that trailer, but the end of that trailer really creeps me out, which is something that happens in the movie itself. And if you ever wondered what Christian Bale was doing between Equilibrium and Batman Begins, there you go. Here it is right here. The Machinist stars Bale as the title character, a machinist struggling with paranoia and delusions after being unable to sleep for an entire year. And this was the movie that drew most of the attention because of Bale's commitment to the role, where he actually lost 62 pounds in preparation for the role, and it shows in this movie. Like, you could see just like how meek and how thin the guy is, and it's just like if anything else, you got to give it to him for taking it to that next level. And if this was the movie that convinced Christopher Nolan to cast him as Batman, then more power to him, man. Which, I mean, then again, the movie did come out about 7 months before Batman Begins did. About that, 7, 8 9 months, close to it, but yeah, it's a performance that if anybody in particular Like, if anybody in particular was ever downing Christian Bale as an actor as a whole, after just watching him in American Psycho or Equilibrium, this is a movie that definitely does show for him. And like I said, it's the commitment he takes to the role. He dieted for 4 months, and, you know, he had the filming, he left with just 6 weeks. He had 6 weeks to pretty much regain all that mass so he could play Batman. I mean, that's a tall task to do. And he achieved it through weightlifting, binging on pizzas and ice cream, which, for any person, it seems like the American dream. But, hey, more power to him, man, because, like I said, the fact that he turned in this great performance and then later turned in a great performance as Batman, not but less than a year later, that just shows you the commitment he brings to this performance in general. And the film is really bleak and dark. Like, this is a movie that is unlike Surviving Christmas, where it tells you right from the get-go that it's going to be a dark psychological trip, and it shows no mercy, and it really is an intense, terrifying film at times, where it actually, where you really do get invested in the storyline, and you really are so compelled to watch this. This is directed by Brad Anderson, too, who would later do Trans-Siberian, the films he did before this, Next Stop Wonderland, Happy Accidents. Does not really get a lot of respect as a director. He's made a couple movies that weren't that great, most notably Halle Berry's The Call, which was really not a good movie in general. And this is probably overall his best film as a director. Jennifer Jason Leigh is also really good in the film. You see her in little bits and pieces there, but this also has a cast that includes Michael Ironside, Reggie Cathey, just a lot of good actors involved here. A dark, bleak feel overall, and one that just works very well to the film's advantage. It's a film that is very intense, very engaging to watch. Can't recommend this one enough. Definitely check out The Machinist if you haven't seen it. It's definitely one of Christian Bale's most underrated performances, bar none.
Just because you're going blind.
Ray Charles turned despair into hope.
You're gonna have to make it work, Ray.
I'm gonna make it do what it do, baby. And darkness into light.
I hear like you see, like that hummingbird outside the window.
I can't hear her.
You have to listen.
The whole
Jamie Foxx.
just an old sweet song.
Ray, rated PG-13, coming to DVD.
So, as you can tell, the film is about the life of Ray Charles through the course of 30 years, in which it begins with Ray finding out that he's going blind to the point, and then eventually leading into the point where he became one of the most beloved musicians of all time. And this is directed by Taylor Hackford, and of course features Jamie Foxx giving a career-defining performance that literally was a game-changer for him, because not only was this a movie that showed how good his dramatic role aspects could really be, but he was well rewarded for it with an Academy Award the following year, one of 2 Oscar nominations he had after a great year in 2004 with this and Collateral. But this is really one of the best biopics out there, honestly, and I figured it out why just today, just in the last couple minutes when I'm getting ready for this review. But I'll delve into that in just a second here. But the movie works because it's a really good story to tell. Nothing about this movie feels like it's forced, or most of the problems with most musical biopics nowadays, it doesn't feel like it's a movie that's specifically going for a mainstream audience. It's trying to tell a story. It's trying to tell the cold, hard reality of what Ray Charles had to go through throughout the course of his life. And it helped that Ray Charles was there in the production of during the production of the movie. They was actually going to attend the screening of the completed film, but unfortunately, he died of liver disease just a few months before the film premiered, and so the film essentially became a tribute not just to him in real life, but also to his legacy after his passing that summer. But the movie is great. It's got this great visual style to it. It's a great story to tell. You know, Jamie Foxx kills it as Ray Charles. He's absolutely pitch perfect in the role. A great supporting cast also includes Kerry Washington, Regina King, Harry Lennox, Terrence Howard, Richard Schiff, Lawrence Tate. Just a terrific cast. Clifton Powell. A good director, Taylor Hackford, who's directed such great movies as An Officer and a Gentleman. But the reason why this movie works, and I really figured it out now, not just because the movie is great overall, but this was actually an independently produced film. I had no idea that this thing was an independently produced movie, and I thought it was strictly from Universal in general, but no, they didn't come into the production until the movie had been well completed, so there was no studio interference while making the movie. They weren't clearly making the film so it can appeal to a mainstream audience or just do a generic-ass biopic storyline that we've seen done to death. No, this movie feels authentic because there's no studio telling them what you should do with the storyline here. They just let the story play as it is, And essentially, Universal picked it up because of all things. One of his executives actually used to hitchhike to Ray Charles concerts, and that's the reason why, you know, they essentially picked the movie up because of that, and the gamble paid off big time. It was a massive hit. It was a critical hit. It was a big Oscar winner, and like I said, it helped push Jamie Foxx to that next level of his career, where he wasn't just the comedic actor anymore. He could be a very serious, dramatic actor. And a performance like this really shows what his true potential can really be. It's a great movie, man. It's just an incredible film. Not much more I can really say about the film that has already been said already. The movie just works. It's one of the best biopics ever. If you have not seen Ray, do yourself a favor and check this movie out, because it is definitely well worth the watch. Just for the performance alone, but the movie itself is just absolutely pitch perfect. It's one of the best movies of the year. Can't recommend this one enough. Definitely check out Ray. So that is Ray. So let's go ahead and move on to another independently produced movie that essentially began one of the most known horror franchises of all time. Let's talk about Saw.
Mommy, there's a man in my room.
Are you sure he's not just hiding in your imagination?
Critics are calling Saw the year's scariest film.
He finds ways for his victims to kill themselves.
The suspense is breathtaking.
He doesn't want us to cut through our chains. He wants us to cut through.
Your skin will crawl right off your bones.
Oh my God!
Saw.
There's no such thing as the bad man.
Rated R.
There is such a thing as absorbing your welcome, and Saw definitely did that for a number of years, until the last movie was actually kind of a success, but I'll do more to that in just a second here. But this is, of course, Saw. This is the movie that essentially started it all. It was essentially the movie that put Lionsgate over the top and made them an official bigger budgeted studio, because this was one of their first early big hits as a studio in general that really helped them to get properties like The Hunger Games, and, you know, eventually merging with Summon Entertainment with Twilight. You know, a number of different movies, John Wick. You know, all of that can be traced back to Saw's success in October of 2004, a movie that really came out of nowhere and just really took everyone by surprise. And believe it or not, this is how Saw started off, so much simpler and much less of what it eventually would become known for. And here you have a non-linear narrative revolving around the mystery of the Jigsaw Killer, who tests his victims' will to live by putting them through deadly games where they must inflict great physical pain upon themselves to survive. And the framed story features Jigsaw's latest victims, a doctor played by Cary Elwes, and a man who played by Leigh Whannell, who's the writer of this, who awakens in a large dilapidated bathroom, with one being ordered to kill the other to save his family. And then there's a subplot involving a detective played by Danny Glover investigating the games surrounding Jigsaw's victims. So it's a psychological thriller mixed in with a horror movie, a mix of Seven mixed with a horror movie in general. And yeah, and you could tell as the films went on that those little subplots kind of get pushed off to the side, because everyone goes to these movies to see what kind of clever and unique traps Jigsaw will use next on his victims. And yeah, that's kind of what the Saw movies eventually became overall. And there was that chunk of period where these movies, every new movie that came out was a big hit. Every one of them made money for the studio, and that's why they kept making them. This was essentially what Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th was back in the 1980s. And then you had this, and you also had Paranormal Activity, kind of filling that void that Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street had in the 80s. This was that generation's movies of that type. Like, these movies kept coming out every year. They were still making money, even though the quality kept getting lower and lower, mostly because people were only going to see these movies mostly to see what kind of traps they would set up here. And after that, like after the first weekend, they usually traded off so quickly. The last movie wasn't a big hit financially, but it was a success critically to get the film series back on track. Because Saw X actually did work pretty well. I even like what they did with Jigsaw, which is the one that Chris Rock did with Samuel L. Jackson, which kind of took it back to its roots a little bit. And so yes, Saw's been kind of having a little bit of a renaissance over the course of the last couple of years. But this particular film was a massive hit, and it works because you really get. It's a very good slow burn movie. It's a film that makes you wonder: are these guys gonna really cut into each other so they can get out of here, or is this actually part of a game by Jigsaw here, who we don't really see a whole lot in this movie? It's Tobin Bell in here, but he becomes more of a prevalent character, as does Shawnee Smith, who plays Amanda, who eventually becomes a bigger character in the series going forward. the film itself is pretty interesting. It's pretty intriguing where the series eventually started and what it eventually became into. And it introduced the world to James Wan, who's gone on to become a prolific director of his own rights, not just an action director, but a horror director too. And now he's merged with Jason Blum in the last couple of years, and they've created these powerhouse movies that make a lot of money, and people go see them, and most of them are very successful. Most of them, not all of them, but still. Like, it's a really engaging film. What this movie does, it shows what James Wan can do as a director. It does keep you on the edge of your seat, thinking what's going to happen, what's going to be the end result of this. And I'll say the subplot with Danny Glover doesn't really do a whole lot. It kind of overstays its welcome pretty quickly, and it really does feel like it goes away from what's making the entertainment factor, in the fact that you have these two guys who are literally cutting into each other and trying to find this key, and like it's like you don't know if it's part of a game or not, and then you find out at the end it is part of Jigsaw's sick and twisted game. But it works in the long run, and the film just works because it has a great cast to work with. Carrie Elways is very good, Monica Potter, Michael Emerson. Danny Glover, like I said, is very good, even though his subplot's not really all that great overall. But the film does a good job of setting up what the Saw movies do best. I mean, they keep you on the edge of your seat. You keep thinking, how are these guys going to get out of here? And you wonder how the series moves forward with the next couple of movies. And like I said, most people went to the next couple of movies just to see how elaborate the traps get, because the traps do get elaborate more than they put more. Let me put it this way: they put more creativity in the traps in the sequels than they do the actual story. The actual story doesn't really matter with the sequels for the most part, until we get later on down the road, of course. But as far as this one goes, this is definitely one of the better installments in the series, and we're just beginning, because we're going to get to at least one of these every single year, at least for the next 6-7 years. So get ready for that, folks, because that's going to be a fun little ride for me, because I haven't seen most of the Saw movies. I've just started watching them as of late, and yeah, I've been really kind of getting into the first couple of movies. I don't know if they're going to get better or worse from there, but more than likely they're going to get worse from what I've heard about them. But like I said, the traps are probably going to be more elaborate than the actual storyline. But we will see as we go down the road here. So that is Saw. So let's go ahead and move on to our last movie, and that is Nicole Kidman in Jonathan Glazer's Birth.
You can't go around saying you're somebody not. What are you doing?
I'm looking at my life.
This is insane. Because I don't want to fall in love again with Sean. And that's what's happening.
You can think whatever you want. Everybody can think what they want. I am who I say I am.
Stay away. Stay away.
You ask Anna who she loves more, me or Joseph. Go ahead. Go ask her.
It's a Jonathan Glazer movie. I mean, what the hell did you expect from the same director of Under the Skin and The Zone of Interest? But this is Birth, and the movie is about Nicole Kidman, who plays a woman who's been convinced that her dead husband, Sean, is being reincarnated as this 10-year-old boy played by Cameron Wright, who I guess they were really setting up to be the next big horror superstar, because he was in Godsend, and in here he's playing a very dark role in particular, because he's got that face of an evil person. Like I wouldn't have been surprised if they were looking at him to cast him in the Omen remake that's coming in a couple years from now. But his career kind of came and went after this. I mean, he did a couple of other notable movies. He was in Thank You for Smoking. He was in Ultraviolet. He was in X-Men: The Last Stand, Running Scared, and he did the Twilight movies, which, I mean, the Twilight movies were financially successful, but I mean, I think we've all seen now that the Twilight movies really devoid your true talents, because once you step away from them, it turns out you actually have more to offer this world than starring in those movies. But I digress. But this movie in particular is certainly a very weird complex. This feels like the type of movie that Ari Aster would have made back in nowadays for A24. Like, it's that type of a freaky movie where, you know, the whole idea is that this woman has lost her husband, and all of a sudden he's been reincarnated into this 10-year-old boy, and she has feelings for this kid in the same way that she did for her husband, and it's just like, how far are you willing to take this movie? Are you willing to go into incest routes here? Like, it's a very uncomfortable movie, which could be very compelling, and some might say this is kind of a precursor to what an A24 movie should be like. Like I said, an Ari Aster A24 movie probably would feel this way. This feels like on the same level as something like the first thing he ever did, which was the strange thing about the Johnsons. But yeah, it's a movie that really does not know what direction they really want to go with it. And it's an interesting idea, kind of an engaging idea, but just botched execution all the way through. It doesn't really feel like a film that knows exactly what kind of a movie it really wants to go for. And like I said, it gets really icky at times when you really consider that this is a 10-year-old boy having a relationship with this much older woman. I mean, we talked about movies that have been very similar to this, like Blank Check, one of the most notorious examples, where you have an older woman and Karen Duffy kissing this little boy at the end of the movie on the lips. Like, that's freaky. That's bad enough because that's not only a kids movie, but a 90s movie, but a 90s Disney kids movie. This just feels like a film that, yeah, it's very icky at times. Like, the most controversial scene in the movie is where Nicole Kidman has to share a bath with this young kid. They're both naked, and yeah, it's very unusual. It's very odd because, yeah, he's supposed to be the older her husband in this little kid's body, and it's just very uncomfortable. But maybe not the way the director probably had envisioned it. Quite frankly, I don't really know what they were really going for when it was all said and done. And it just felt like a film that really, you can see the idea of maybe what they're trying to do here, but it just never really reaches that point where you figure out, okay, I get what he's trying to do here, and this makes this kind of a groundbreaking film. And yeah, it's a film that is definitely very odd, to say the least. But to its credit, it was not a big critical hit when it came out, but it has gone on to be reappreciated over the years, and some people actually calling it a masterpiece, which, more power to them. I mean, I can kind of see where they're coming from, but at the same time, I still can't pass the idea of what this movie was trying to do, and I don't think they did it very well in general. But at least it showed that this director has definitely shown in the years since this that he has a lot of talent to him. He made Under the Skin, which I think is a very good, if not very weird, movie with Scarlett Johansson. The Zone of Interest is a great movie too. But this one, I felt like he was trying to go for the shock value without an overall end result that he wanted to have here. Like, he couldn't really figure out what people were supposed to take from this, and it definitely shows on screen here. It's a movie that I think has some good intentions to it, some good ideas that it wants to tell, but just not enough there to push it past the point where it is a must-see movie. But more of a film that just kind of feels like a film that has some good ideas to it, but just can't get the execution right in the end to really say what it wants to say when it's all said and done. Definitely a muddled film, to say the least. And yeah, it can be very iffy and icky at times. So yeah, that is Nicole Kidman in Birth.